Today we are focusing on greener alternatives for construction material. Shriti, welcome, and tell us a little bit about what it is that you're building at Structure.
Thanks, Gautam. Yes, so as you rightly said, what Structure is doing is focused on empowering sustainable construction by looking at two sectors, which is buildings that have one of the global biggest carbon footprint, almost 1/3, whether it is commercial or residential buildings throughout the planet, and an agriculture sector which produces a lot of unwanted waste, which most of us folks who live in the cities don't come across and don't look at it as a resource, which is the crop residue. And India, being one of the largest agrarian economy, is sitting on a lot of unwanted resource which can be utilized, is untapped. And we look at this as the raw material to build engineered panels, which become an alternative to a lot of drywall materials in our commercial, industrial, residential buildings, and help in not only addressing the carbon footprint of the building by basically offsetting the carbon that the building can emit through the materials, but also making it more functional by making it more insulated and more durable in the long run because of the natural materials that are more breathable, non-volatile, less toxic, and more thermally and acoustically insulated.
What is the existing material that you're essentially replacing, Shriti? Walk us through how this has a critical environmental impact as well.
Sure. So when we look at a building, we focus on the interiors of any building, mostly commercial and industrial buildings. Now in a building, you have your walls, your roof, your ceiling, doors, and furniture, which often has 60 to 65% of the carpet area that it consumes. And it's the square footage that's 65% of that square footage as to the carbon footprint of the building. Now that 65% can be addressed by using agricultural waste such as paddy straw and sugarcane waste, which when compressed and used as an engineered panel versus your brick, plaster board, fiber cement boards, engineered wood, hardwood, for the same application in the building, acts as a carbon sink and gives more long-term value in its usage in the same application in the building that something else traditionally mainstream was being used. So that's how it impacts the environment. And to use numbers, the easiest way to understand this is that every square feet of a panel stores 3 kg of carbon dioxide, which means if I talk about a 100 square feet room, we have the potential of anywhere storing easily around 1,000 kgs of CO2, which is equivalent to planting 10 tropical trees, which save 100 kgs of carbon dioxide in the entire life. So by just, addressing one square room in a building, we can address that much of CO2 that is just offsetted from the building for its lifetime because it's locked in the raw material that we are using.
How does Structure's material, the engineered wood that you're manufacturing, compare in terms of properties such as moisture retention or modulus of rupture, fire resistance, and most critically for adoption, price?
Definitely. So the best thing about why we use this material besides being sustainable is that it's actually not a new material. If we look a little back into our history, whether India, Europe, or most part of the globe, we have been using a lot of natural materials such as lime, straw, and mud. It's just that we are now looking at how we can reinvent the way it is used. So the form of it, which is making it more sophisticated and long lasting, but it doesn't compromise on the functional value. So our product any day has 30 to 40% more thermal insulation than an engineered wood or a brick building that is, let's say, plastered with gypsum. And the product has equivalent moisture resistance to a plywood, which in Indian context is the most go-to sort of engineered wood that we use. We're not a country that uses a lot of low density materials. So we're comparable there. And the most important durability factor for us is fire. In India, we are very concerned about safety. We actually have one of the most stringent fire laws according to the building standards. And that is where straw has a lot of silica in it, which naturally makes it fire retardant, and we don't have to add any chemical or coating. So the natural material makes it 2R fire rated versus traditional interior materials having 1R fire rating. So we are in a very good position to offer all our customers the same standard warranty that mainstream products offer, which is either 10 years or 15 years, while making sure that they are getting a more durable product for the same application. And when it comes to price, considering, yes, we're in a price sensitive market like India, I would say that when we are looking at any functional value, which is whether insulating, using a fire-rated partition wall, using a moisture-resistant false ceiling, we are competitive with the mainstream brands that are there in the market, because our target audience are mainstream corporate brands, schools, hospital, healthcare buildings, and we are always competing with the mainstream brands that are there. And our customers don't have to shell exponentially out of their pocket to use this product, but see the value both in price, function, and the durability. It's a good sweet spot that we are able to have, and we are seeing that traction with our clients as well for the product.
So there's clearly room for many more, manufacturers such as yours that are using agri panels. What are the challenges that you're running into in terms of adoption? I mean, is it like a easy concept sell to, let's say, more progressive customers of yours? How are you countering the existing presence of, and the, just the penetration of plywood in India? I mean, there is just a lot of resistance to new material, especially in the building industry. How have you managed to kind of circumvent that, or how have you taken these challenges head on?
Definitely. So at Structure, I agree with you that we're not competing with younger brands or small companies. We're competing with companies that have been around for even as much as 100 years, internationally or nationally. So what we look at is to always pitch a solution, not a product. So we never go to our customers and say that, oh, you can use this against plywood, you can use this against gypsum. Our pitch is always, are you looking for a better U value of your walls? Are you looking for a false ceiling that doesn't have any issue with dampness? So it's always finding a gap in the existing solutions that are there in the market and pitch that to our customers, which has always translated better for us. And for us, it's often the architects who understand the product and then recommend it to the end users, which could be the owner or the builders out there. So with architects, we have felt that when we are pitching a solution, they are more inclined to listen and to value what we are offering as a product. Because answering your question, because there are so many big brands, most of the brands out there now, a lot of them are almost like a commodity in the Indian market. So there's no uniqueness to any product that is there. And I think that while it is difficult to fight such a big market, that creates a huge gap in the market also for customization. And as a young company, we have that ability to be lean, to be agile, and offer that customization where the architect is not waiting for 8 weeks lead time to get a customized acoustic product or a fire rated partition with a certain finish. While I say that, the challenges that we face is that it's easier to target bigger customers with bigger order value for us. But let's say we are based in Delhi and Bangalore majorly. Now in Delhi, there are more than 1,000 architects, but a lot of small scale architects who also see value would need 10 sheets, 5 sheets. And that is where we are fighting to build the distribution model that older companies out there for decades have built, where they have a dealer sitting every 5 kilometers across the country. And that gives your customer a certain sense of, comfort that if I need this material tomorrow, it's available. While with a new brand, I have to maybe wait for a week, get it from the factory. What if for some reason they do not have it and I'm stuck specifying it? So I think what we are facing, a challenge, which is also an opportunity to scale, is how to get now the product into the traditional distribution model while still maintaining that exclusivity of being a solution and not a commodity out there. And if we are able to do that as we grow with each city that we are targeting in India, then we'll be in a better place, and architects would just feel more comfortable, because that's the biggest bottleneck. Is the first question they ask, but do I have to wait too long to get your product? Because I can get any gypsum or plywood by any dealer out there in my city if I just make a call. So I think that with tight timeline of projects, sometimes they feel a risk to adopt new products for sure.
I was actually going to touch upon the supply and demand problem, and you did cover it very well. But I'm actually looking at the cyclic nature of crops. There are, I'm not sure if agri panels are a product that can be made from any crop out there. Maybe it's a limited list. So I think, I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little more about that. But I'm also looking at, are you looking like a large central presence in multiple areas, or are you looking at working with smaller farmers, let's say who have like large tracts of land that they grow sugarcane on, for instance. And is this an opportunity also for, ventures such as yours to create employment in the off season for agriculture? I mean, there are off seasons there as well, right? So I know I've touched upon a few different things, but it all kind of ties back into the supply and demand problem for a new material like this, where you really do not have the luxury of a massive inventory that you could maintain.
Definitely. So I think while there is a lot of uniqueness to straw or using an unwanted waste, with any sort of alternative fiber or alternative material, to build the supply chain, you cannot just look at the demand. It's like you have to parallelly build the demand and the supply as you grow, and you're not getting your raw material from one easy factory as and when you need. So for us, how we look at it from day one is, we knew that we have to have a spectrum of fibers that we can work with, but they all have to be alternative. So it's like not using wood, but can we explore sugar cane and parallelly also paddy and coconut and wheat. So looking at the Indian geography and seasonal crops that we grow across the country in different season, for us to de-risk our supply chain, we had to do R&D upfront on different fibers, which we have. And right now we are in a very good position where we have successful trial with 4 different fibers. And we are starting out with the second fiber in South India as well. So that will help us in the long run to not be dependent on one fiber, 3 months upfront, keeping the stock, and also moving around between different fibers. If let's say one has a lower availability, or maybe a season has been affected with rainfall, because we are directly impacted by agricultural season in this case. So that definitely is very important for us. And we need to do R&D even before there is a product out there in the market, just for us to de-risk our complete value chain and looking at it for next 10 years, not just a year or 2 ahead. So that is definitely then. And second is, for us to do that, the moment we say we move around fibers, you also have to move across geographies, which means that we cannot have centralized manufacturing. So we need to explore and exploit decentralized manufacturing, which again is a USP for biomass. So most of the alternative usages that biomass has right now, or technologies are exploring, everyone has understood that you can't set up a big CNG plant. You have to have 100 small bio CNG plants. And the same goes for us, that it has to be small, decentralized, but scalable across geographies, with the same technology, with different farmers and different locations. So both things, decentralized and diversification within the fiber, is what is challenging to do parallelly, but will give you the next 10, 20 years of comfortable cushion to know that you're not going to be out of the market because your raw material can be a risk.
What are the specific UN SDG goals that you help your clients fulfill? Have you done a lot of work around that? There's a lot of greenwashing that's going around, and it's important for, especially for startups such as yours, to kind of, put the spotlight on, what's right and what is wrong, especially from a sustainability point of view.
Definitely. So I think for us, when we entered the market, the easiest thing to get was the standard green certification that a lot of mainstream materials have, even though they might not theoretically or factually be that green. So for us, the way to stand out was to go back to the source, which is a raw material. So when we are talking to our customers, we like to show them the entire journey from the raw material to the product stage. And we have captured the life cycle assessment of a product. So we have gone a step ahead and not just done a green certification, which is more on just the usage of the product, but capturing every step of the footprint that the product might have at manufacturing, how it is sourced, where it is coming from, how far is the factory. And then our cradle to gate life cycle analysis is net negative. And that report helps us to be more out there to our customers, and also gives them an opportunity to question other brands and ask them for a similar number and do a little more in their exercise of talking about the green products. So we definitely have sort of created a benchmark and want to have that place always in the market. And secondly, when it comes to SDGs, so we primarily address 11, 12, and 13 SDGs. So the 11 is around sustainable cities and communities, which is around using a product for building sustainable buildings in new urban cities that are growing up. And secondly, on the economic growth that we can support, which is by creating livelihood by the raw material that we have. So in our case, it's not just helping carpenters have greener jobs or to move to greener jobs, but it's the farmers and making them more resilient by offering another source of livelihood while, the main crop is, what they're really depending upon. But it's like you make 20% more from the waste. So why don't you, that gives a huge cushion to a small or a marginal scale farmer that is there. And then 13 is where it is more about the carbon footprint, which is about climate change, the SDG, which is again which is why we went ahead and got the LCA, because we want to very tangibly show our numbers. So every month when we say this much is the amount of panels we have stored, we can document it ourselves. We are even taking a step ahead and looking and getting a carbon accounting done for products, so that in next few years, when the Indian market has a more sophisticated carbon credit market, we are out there, as a brand or as a company with a product that can help other companies offset their carbon, because we do have a genuine carbon negative product.